Dale, how's it going?
Hello. What's
Sorry,
good? How are y'all?
sorry. Doing good, doing good. We're excited to have you on the podcast today.
Glad to be here. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that problem.
I don't know
I
what
don't
it
know.
was. The new one worked. The old one did not.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad that we got it figured out though. Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you on the Conquer cast today. I know it's been a little while since I was out there, um, but would love to just catch up on how things have been. I guess I'll start off by giving you a proper introduction to our listeners. Um, this is Dale Brisby, the world's greatest cowboy, the OG old son super puncher, and your mom's favorite cowboy. So we're super excited to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Um, and I would just love to start off by putting it out there. What is it like being the world's greatest cowboy?
Oh, for me, every day it's just it's pretty mundane and monotonous to just wake up and be the greatest and be the greatest and be the greatest. But I enjoy it nonetheless. It's fun to use the internet to get to connect with fans and just give them a glimpse into the life of the world's greatest bull rider.
That is awesome. That is great to hear. That is great to hear.
What are you guys doing? You started my podcast without me?
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, dang, I wonder what's going on here.
Did you think that was me?
No, I knew it wasn't you, but I don't know. I was just,
I should have just left it, kept going, but we had to do something to give ourselves a laugh at least in here.
there
Canyon
you
actually
go.
did a really good job with that. I think we'll just go with that as the intro.
I was
That's
wondering. I was
hilarious.
like, man, maybe Trevor's like behind him, or maybe it's like, maybe Trevor was never supposed to be on. Is what I got to thinking. I was like, I was really searching my brain, like, did I mess up? And I just thought it was going to be Trevor. Somebody's got his phone. Is what I really thought.
I guess they have somebody else. I won't even ask. I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Y'all are the boss. You got me from 2 to 3 here on Friday afternoon. So if you want, whoever I'm talking to, I don't mind.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks,
That's
Kenny.
awesome. Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it. Well, we had to give ourselves a little laugh over here and I try to pull off some type of prank with you, knowing that that's kind of where a lot of this began was with some pranks that you pulled off. So
Yeah,
I
touche.
didn't know how else to do it. I was either gonna come with my glasses and my old son hat and maybe a long wig or something, and or just have somebody else come on and pretend like they were me. But
That's funny. That's funny.
how you doing?
Good, man. Just clicking through, making all the videos we can, podcast a couple times a week, and vlogs and skits, and just doing all we can.
That's
So,
awesome. Good stuff, brother. It's good to see you, and I appreciate you taking some time with us today. I thought Canyon actually did. I didn't tell him what to say. I just told him to come on and and
right?
just start pretending like he was me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can get started. I've got you till 3 o'clock your time. So
Yeah.
let's
Whenever.
get moving.
Yeah. Whenever.
Yeah, no, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Conquercast. That's one thing Canyon didn't say. This is the Conquercast, but Dale Brisby, the one and only uh, super puncher, the number one cowboy out there. He just said it. It's hard waking up every day, just being the best, and then being the best again and again.
That's it.
But no, I appreciate having you on here. Appreciate the partnership with MTN Ops, and yeah, I look forward to catching up and making our audience a little more aware of what you do, how you do it, and maybe giving us a few laughs here and there. But
You bet.
I first heard of you. This was well before we connected, and one of it was actually our tax accountant here at MTN Ops was like, "Have you seen this guy on Netflix?" Um, and I
Yeah.
said, no. He's like, "You got to watch it. It's awesome for the family." My friend was watching it every Sunday evening. Him and his family would sit down and watch an episode. of Dale Brisby. And so our family started doing that, and then all of a sudden you were on the Cam Haynes podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like he's on a roll right now. But and then had an opportunity with some of our team to go down to your place and pretend to be cowboys for a few days. And as you know, I chickened out getting on the bull. I thought I was doing my wife a favor by keeping myself safe and not broken and all this because we had a family vacation coming up. And when I got home, she was like, "You were with Del Brisby, and you didn't get on a bull. Like you." She's like, "You were interviewed by him in a podcast after, and you didn't do what he does. Like
Yeah.
you should have done that." And so, I've been kicking myself ever since, knowing that one day I'll have to get back there and have you put me on one of them bulls. But yeah, man, sorry that's a long intro, but thanks for being on. Maybe just start out, tell us a little bit about who Del Brisby is, because I know a lot of our audience knows who you are, but there's a lot that are tuning into the podcast now and learning who our guests are and who our partners are. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man, just riding bulls and punching fulls. I've just kind of been, uh, going down the old rodeo trail my whole life. And probably 12 years ago, we put out our very first YouTube video. And so it's been pretty much just rodeoing or ranching. And we just have, fun along the way, trying to have a good time. And we put as much of that on film as we can. And so I've got a team here. I live in Texas. I'm west of Fort Worth, and there's about 15 of us here in the warehouse. I've got an apparel line, and that kind of keeps everything rolling. And so a lot of my team either works on the apparel line or the media team. Got about 7 editors right now, and so
Wow.
we're constantly, and we do some collabs. I had some really big YouTubers here yesterday getting on bulls.
Hmm.
And
Awesome.
done a lot of
How'd
those
they
kind of
ride?
collaborations. Really good. I'm
Really?
sure, yeah, I'm sure you might have heard of him. I don't want to spoil it for their sake. The video hadn't come out yet, but it will soon. And uh,
Cool.
but regardless, I'm kind of the go-to guy for people in the internet world that want to get on a bull. And so a lot of
Yeah.
people come, call me, and I've got, the perfect starter pack for bull riders. And so it's kind of what my life has led to at this point. Between the intern program has been a really good picture of that. So I live out in the middle of nowhere and needed some people to help me with the apparel line and edit videos. And so I started the intern program where people can come here, live and work for me, and then at some point either learn how to ranch, learn how to ride broncs, learn how to ride bulls, etc. So, yeah, it's been fun to get to give back.
Don't you have a pretty lengthy list of people that apply for that program?
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, there's um, the main just like ranch hand intern spot. I mean, there's been like 10,000 people reach out
Wow.
over the years because I can tell like how many through the texting app where people get a hold of me.
Yep.
Once you narrow it down, they got to be 21 and over.
Okay.
Just mainly because when we go to these booths and driving, they got to be 21 to be on the insurance. But and
Mm.
so anyhow, that narrows it down to like maybe 6,500 people,
Okay.
which is
Gotcha.
still a lot.
Yeah.
And then it boils down to when we need a person and the timing of those 6,500. There's maybe only 1,000 that are in a spot in their life, or less than that, 500, where it's like, okay, if he picks me, I can go. And so a lot of people reach out, and the timing may not be right for us, and by the time it is, it's not right for them. And so
Right.
the intern program has been great. We've had guys from California, Nebraska, Montana, Missouri, North Carolina, Mississippi, Georgia. They come from all over, to people that don't have access to a ranch or rodeo, but they want to learn.
Yeah.
So Donnie, he's
That's
been here
awesome.
the longest out of everybody that's on the team. He's been here for 6 years, and he's
Wow.
made the CPRA finals, which is an amateur association. The
Yep.
UPRA finals like now 3 years in a row, and So he's
Wow.
got to learn how to ride broncs and essentially started a career in bronc riding here.
Awesome. He didn't ride before coming to you?
No, no, he was helping his dad at the bar. His dad had a bar in Missouri somewhere, and
Wow.
that's where a lot of these guys that like Carson was pouring concrete with his dad, and depending on where had a guy come here out of Pennsylvania that was running a chicken house, and all walks of life. People that appreciate the ag industry but don't really have a way to get in. And what's interesting about this job and the intern program is there's a job attached to it. So there's places you
Yeah.
can go learn, but they're also not going to pay you. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the opportunity for people here.
He's been there for 6 years. Is it typically like a year thing, and then if you like him, you keep him around, or is there a limit on the time?
No, I mean essentially I call it an internship, but essentially they're just employees.
Yeah.
And I mean it's a real job. So the
Yeah.
first 2 weeks people typically work for free. And so it is an internship for 2 weeks. But when we make videos and these guys are in the content, I refer to them as interns because that sends a message to people out in the world. It's kind of a low key marketing
Yeah.
technique just to kind of alert the public that we have positions open. Also, when
Yeah.
you hear the word intern, it makes you think, okay, I'm probably not going to get paid a lot, if any, and I'll be learning something,
Mm.
which we do pay, just not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So it weeds out the crowd and gets you to maybe people that are interested in
Exactly.
more of what
Yeah.
you're offering.
If somebody is looking for some, $60,000 a year ranching gig, they're not gonna apply for an internship.
Right. Right. Of course. That's awesome. So 12 years ago, you created your first video. What was the video?
Man, to be honest, I really didn't even know he was gonna turn it into a video. I was at a rodeo in Woodstown, New Jersey, little summer series they have called Cowtown, and I'd been prank calling people a lot, but at that time, so we made a video. I was just kind of BSing with my buddies in this bunkhouse before the rodeo, and just said a bunch of random stuff. It's still on YouTube. Bull Rider 1, and Dale
Okay.
Brisby Bull Rider 1 was what it was
Huh.
titled, like it was going to be the first of many videos. And anyhow, he put it on YouTube. Buddy of mine, Mitch Montgomery, and then later sent me the login and said, "Here you go." And I had a Facebook prior to that, but I hadn't made any videos. It was all just like pictures. And so, yeah, July 1st, 2013, we released the first video. So this July, month and a half from now, will be 12 years.
12 years. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And was that a prank call on your first video, or what was?
No, it
Or,
was just me, just essentially talking crap and being silly. But 12 years ago, especially in the Western industry, like nobody was making videos. And
mm,
so it was this funny video of a bull rider that got like 30,000 views, which for YouTube in my space 12 years ago was a lot of views.
mm,
And I was managing a ranch at the time and rodeoing, and my dad had just died like 2 months earlier, and so it was just the beginning of a new life, unbeknownst to me,
mm.
because of what the internet was going to turn into. If you think about
Yeah. When?
2013.
Yeah. No. Of course. Yeah. There's a lot going on right there. So a new life, unbeknownst to you. You didn't. I mean, your friend puts a video on YouTube for you, gives you a login to the account, and then you just started adding more and more content to it. Under
Exactly.
when
Yeah. So
when did Del Brisby come about? Like
yeah.
he
Oh
was.
yeah. The channel was called Dale Brisby, and then the show that I would later call my vlog Rodeo Time. So my
Yeah.
podcast and my vlog are both called Rodeo Time, but the channel is called Dale Brisby, and then our backup channel is called Rodeo Time. Can get confusing, but regardless, yeah, Rodeo Time has been the brand,
Okay.
but everything falls under the mascot myself as Dale Brisby.
Yeah. How did that come about? The Del Brisby mascot.
Well, I mean, I just needed a way to, essentially, I wanted to promote my own apparel. And so it was a way for me to market a product, is what it turned into. I basically just, I loved making content, and I guess it just worked out that, so I was making content, making videos, and making people laugh, and I was just wearing this rodeo time cap. And then
Hmm.
eventually it just turned into me realizing that there was a formula there that with more and more content, it would market this product. I was making the videos without the product and then added it later.
Okay.
And so to me, that was what really kind of gave us a path to success, was because
Yeah.
the marketing side of things is what I enjoyed the most. Um,
Mm.
and even now today, like my fundamentals are still the same. Like, make good quality content every day, and then wear the shirt, wear the cap. And so that's what it's been for me. Is just I circle back to what got us started 12 years ago, and that's bring value to the audience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you just one day, you were always a kind of a funny guy growing up, or one day you're like, hey, I can make a living being funny and being a cowboy and bringing these worlds together, or I mean, how did that dream start, or how did that vision start to come
Yeah,
together
I
that way?
was I was definitely always a class clown in school, and
Fun.
I loved making people laugh. Like that was like a high for me, was to get people to laugh. And whether it was a
Yeah.
teacher, a classmate, my parents, my grandmother, my mom and my grandmother probably were the most entertained by my sense of humor. And um, I don't know, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the thrill of making someone laugh. And um, I also got latched onto and addicted to the rodeo lifestyle, like right out of high school. And
Mm.
when I was born, we lived on the Pitchfork Ranch, which it neighbors the Four Sixes. It's about the same size. Doesn't have quite the notoriety that the Four Sixes Ranch has, but same exact kind of territory and country and cows,
Mm.
same kind of cowboys. Matter of fact, they used to neighbor, and so they'd help each other in during Brandon. But the
Mm.
point is, my dad, he was a camp man out at West Camp, and he was in charge of the cows at West Camp, and we left there. I was just a few years old, and then we went, and he was an ag teacher, and we managed a ranch in Memphis, Texas. Um, and that's where I learned to really cowboy, was on this little ranch called Quail Trail. And
Mm.
anyhow, I wanted to be, when I left high school, there were there were literally three things on my mind, possible job routes. I wanted, I was going to college. I went to school at Texas A&M. I didn't want to, but I decided I wanted to be a rodeo cowboy, or I wanted to work at the Pitchfork Ranch. Well, you can't do both. When you work at the pitch, when you work full time on one of those ranches, like you're not allowed to
Mhm.
rodeo.
Yeah.
Well, so I went the rodeo path, and then I realized later you could day work on these places.
Mm.
When they had a lot of work, they would just contract labor in guys for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So I went the
Mm.
rodeo path, and then I would just day work on some of these ranches. The third thing I wanted to do was join the military. I always appreciated it, but I could not bring myself to take a break from rodeo and cowboying for 4 years,
Yeah.
because around that time, the war's kicking off, and I've got friends that took off into the military, and so that was definitely on my mind. But I could not rodeo, and so the dream of being a cowboy was always there. I say all
Yeah.
that to say that leading up to 2013, I'm a class clown. I'm in, neck deep in rodeo and cowboying, And the third thing that really contributed to what I would do on the internet was the FFA.
Mm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's through public school. It's like in ag science
Yep.
classes, you can get involved in the FFA. Your
Yeah.
ag teacher can help you, and formerly called the Future Farmers of America, and now it's just
Yeah.
the FFA. But
That's fair.
regardless, there are two types of events you can get in. You can get in career development events or leadership development events. Career development events, CDEs, are like when you are showing an animal or judging, livestock judging, and the things that involve, like ag mechanics, you build a trailer. Those are all CDEs, career development events. The leadership development events are like speaking competitions. So extemporaneous speaking was one of my favorites. And we
Mm.
would, you draw 3 topics out of a bowl. You have 30 minutes to prepare. You pick one of these topics and you give a 5-minute speech on it. I
Mm.
loved that.
Mm.
You can run for office and be a district and
That would
chapter
be most
officer.
people's worst nightmare, I think.
It would be a lot of people's worst nightmare, but I actually got up to be a state officer, which isn't that big a deal at all. People make a bigger deal about it than it actually is. But I did have to give an incoming and an outgoing speech to 10,000 people.
Mm.
And when I was coming into it, I messed up on that speech. Well, when I was going out, I knew that speech backwards. And so
Mm.
it was good to get to fail in front of 10,000 people. And
Mm.
it was good to get to come back and recover and succeed a year later whenever I was giving my retirement address. But the FFA got me ready to be on camera. And so all those things came together: rodeo, FFA, and being a class clown. And so I put that first video out in 2013. I saw an opportunity and I went all in.
Mm.
So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Has it been all rainbows and butterflies? It's smooth sailing ever since for the last 12 years, or have what's it been like building a brand like that on with content and such? The podcast is all about conquering in life, and so I'd love for our listeners to know what it was like, maybe in some tough times, or unless maybe it's just been rainbows and butterflies. I don't know.
it has been rainbows and butterflies, but it hasn't, I guess. There's a lot of little things that I think it's been funny looking back that like I definitely had some struggles. I think I was meant to be an entrepreneur
Yeah.
growing up. Like, I mean, I remember in grade school, I went on a field trip with not much money. Uh, I had a couple of dollars, but I had some yo-yos, and yo-yos were hot at that time. And so went on this field trip, came back. I was able to buy my lunch from the yo-yos that I had sold. And I also had oil where I would oil people's bearings on their yo-yos. But I like paid for lunch, and then I came back and I had like $32 or $36 extra or something, which that was a high for me. Like,
Yeah.
being in sales. But I think it was my love of rodeo in college that really drove me the most towards entrepreneurship, because I needed to be my own boss, and
Yeah.
so in college I sold vitamins, but I really wanted to be my own boss, and um, and eventually I would be, but essentially like I had that desire in me, and so I was managing a ranch in 2013 when I made the first video. Well, in 2015, this oil company that owned the ranch, they sold it. And so
Mm.
I went to work for my brother-in-law for a year after that, day working and doctoring yearlings here in this little part of the world where I live. And it took me 1 year. And so it had been 3 years since my first video. And then I quit that job in the summer of 16, and I've been full-time rodeo time ever since. And so that was my
Mm.
that's why I'm in this random town, is because it's where my last full-time job was. But
Mm.
we started slow, and we paid cash for everything.
Mm.
Um, and I never wanted to me, it was like super risky to have like a balloon payment or a line of
Yeah.
credit on inventory.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I really kept treating it, and maybe I still keep treating it as if sales will go to zero tomorrow.
Mm.
And so the only debt I have is on like some real estate. And the only real estate I have debt on is income producing real estate. And so
Mm-hmm.
I say that to say that when you ask about sunshine and rainbows, like it has been, but I know a few times I've invested in some inventory that didn't do well, and some of it's still out there on the shelf. And I think looking back, I would have had a lot more headaches and valleys had I maybe done business differently.
Yeah.
It has been all sunshine and rainbows, but I've constantly treated business like we were going to go to zero the next day. And maybe I limited myself that way. Like I haven't set a lot of monetary goals, like I don't have this goal of like becoming a $50 million company by the year of XYZ. Like really, to be
Right.
honest, I think God blesses us with opportunities, and I take advantage of every single one the most I can. Hard work and a good attitude are a common denominator. You have to have them no matter what. And so just keep making wise decisions. What's the next best wise decision I can make? And I think that if you do that, and maybe I've limited myself, but to be honest, I've been scared to even set a goal because God just keeps exceeding my expectations with what He blesses me with anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
I don't know if that
I don't
makes
think you're
sense. Or,
limiting yourself when you approach it that way, and it's like you're knocking on God's door and you're allowing Him to do with you how He needs to work with you. I don't know if it could get any bigger or better than that.
yes, sir.
So I think that's more of an abundance approach and mentality where so many do have scarcity, and sometimes maybe the hey, things could go to zero tomorrow. Maybe there's a little bit of scarcity in that, but I think what you're doing is you're trusting in God and saying, "Hey, I'm good. Just use me,
Yeah.
and let's make good use of our time." And then the cowboy way is to work hard with a good attitude, right?
Yes, sir.
Um, and so is that kind of from your youth growing up, your parents demonstrating that kind of cowboy grit and approach to life?
Yes, absolutely. My dad was a cowboy, and I mean, I can just remember times when life had him down, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. Like I can remember times where he's bleeding. I can remember he's just so tough. He would always circle back to his faith, and everything was always with prayer and thought out. He was like a mix between Billy Graham and John Wayne.
Mm.
Like he was in his Bible. He was also sometimes a hard ass. Like he would,
Mm.
he was so firm, and his faith was so strong, and loyalty was important to him. We used to say strength and honor from the movie Gladiator. That was like a cool thing to say, but what it really meant, the two qualities I would attribute to him were his faith and his loyalty, to
Mm.
his family and to any of his friends. Like if you had my dad in your corner, like I don't think some people realize just how much in their corner he was.
Mm.
Regardless, when he died, he had $800 in his account. Split four ways. That'll buy a good dinner these days for.
Mhm.
But my granddad was an entrepreneur, and he was where I got my entrepreneur spirit from. He wasn't a cowboy at all, but he was. That's where. So I was blessed to get to see what it was like to be an entrepreneur, and one that, you know, kind of an old school, like zero debt, pay cash for everything. Don't, save, 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 but really kind of, but also a businessman and make deals
Yeah.
and, uh, so anyhow, if I had to pick though, 100 out of 100 times, if I had to pick the man to be, it would be my dad. No offense to my granddad. They're both
Right.
Christians. I just, I think that you can you begin to go down a really dark trail when you start to look at success through the lens of money.
Yeah.
And I love the entrepreneurial things that I learned from my granddad. Um, but I would take my dad's faith over my granddad's money 1,000 over 1,000 times. Like, meaning, like,
Mhm.
if I had to choose a lifestyle. Now
Right.
they're both men of God. They're both fear the Lord, and so that's not like a realistic thing I would have had to have chosen anyway. It's not.
Right.
It's a hypothetical situation. But regardless, I got to learn lessons from both of them, and hopefully I'm able to apply them more and more. Anyhow, I'm kind of putting all
That's
this
awesome.
together as you're asking me.
No, it's good. I mean, we didn't have this plan, so we're just going with the conversation. I love where it's going though, and I mean, how would you define success? Does it sounds like a priority in your life is God? How does success look to you in life? Where are you most feeling accomplished or gaining that feeling of achievement and success?
I think it like in Proverbs 22, maybe. Yeah, 22. It says like, with humility and fear of the Lord come riches and honor. And I don't think he's necessarily talking about money,
Right.
but um, I think when I was in the rodeo arena more and more, and every weekend and multiple times a weekend, I tried to have the conversation with myself to really be sure that my success did not come from the arena. That's just something I did in life.
Mm.
And now that I've had success in business, or at least more so than what I had growing up, I've tried to, I got to be diligent in reminding myself of that, that my joy doesn't come from anything on this earth. And so that's something that I do try to constantly remind myself. Um,
Yeah.
because it ebbs and it flows with business. I'm sure you do the same thing with your work-life balance, where you'll realize, like, you know what, I've been in the office too many days for too long a time each day, and I've got to get back and spend time with the family. Well, then you go a couple weeks doing that, and you're like, all right, well, if I don't get back in the office, then I'm not going to have this time to spend with my family. I'm going to have to go work at Bank of America. So, like, uh, it ebbs and it flows when it comes to priorities, I think, and that's probably everybody. But as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, when you're the one making the call every day on how much you spend on a task, it gets tough, because if it's a boss telling you you're here till 5 no matter what, well, then you just have to do that. You can complain
Yeah.
about it, but if you want to keep your job, you have to do that. So
Yeah.
that's a tough thing too for me, is time management. um, I would say the biggest obstacle and the biggest thing that I've had to conquer has been managing people, as far as in
Mm.
my business.
Yeah.
um, Managing people is something I did not see coming. I really, I've always been, I've thought of myself as a people person. So I just thought that meant I would be good at,
Yeah.
managing and being a leader, but it's just not the case. Um,
Yeah.
and that leads me to, like, my personal the biggest thing I've had to conquer personally has been my pride, um,
Hmm.
which comes into play when you're managing people. So those two definitely overlap. And the more that I've gone to battle with my own pride, the easier it's been to manage people. It's gotten easy. It's not dumbed down to an easy task, but you begin to see how decisions should be made.
Huh.
But yeah,
How,
that's
how,
just
have- how, what's one way that you've been able to overcome that? Because I think pride is a thing that whether you're a business leader and managing people or just out in the world, I think pride is one of the things that gets in our way more times than not. What have you found is a way to conquer that?
I haven't found a way to conquer it. I've
That's a
merely
good
I,
humble way to respond.
I've merely identified it. I
Mm.
think that, Andrew Murray talks about humility is like the ultimate dependence on God and realizing that you need Jesus. And so, um, the more dependent I can make myself on God and Jesus, I think that's when I can become, the more I lean into that dependence and not feel like I got to figure it out on my own.
Mm.
I think that's one way. He goes as far to say to be thankful for the things in life that cause us to be, so like bankruptcy or losing someone or losing a limb, anything that makes you humble, like to thank God for that. Anything that brings you to
Mm.
or reminds you of your need for humility, be grateful for, accept with gratitude.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it was written in like 1880 or something, this book. It's just called Humility by Andrew Murray.
No.
But um, regardless, like humility is so important in our walks with Christ that whatever happens bad in our life that will make us humble, we should be grateful for. That's how important it
Yeah.
is. You can have no more faith than you have humility. Because
Mm.
if you have the super dark, black, diabolical pride, if you let pride get as bad as it can be, um, it's hard to look up at something if you're constantly looking down on people. So like you
Mm.
are your own God. That's the
Mm.
ultimate pride. That's the pride that the devil had.
Yeah.
He was trying to make
Yep.
himself. Uh, he saw himself equal with God, and that's what he tempted Adam and
Yeah.
Eve with. Was um, yeah, God just doesn't want you to be like him. That's what happens when you eat that fruit. Like pride is the first sin, actually.
Yeah.
Um, anyhow, C.S. Lewis has a book called Mere Christianity, and there's a
Yeah. Love it.
chapter in there called The Greatest Sin. And that was probably the one that opened me up to it says in there, the more mad you get at pride, that means the more you have it in yourself.
Mm.
Because pride is competition.
Yeah.
And if you're a truly humble person, it doesn't mean that you enter in the competition and then you lose. It means that you remove yourself from the competition. And I can think of the two or three people that come to mind in my life that are super humble. They're just so carefree. They're not entering into these everyday competitions with people.
Mm.
They're just happy. If someone wins something, they're just happy for them. And it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, that's awesome that you got to do this thing. Whereas a prideful person will immediately begin to think of how they need to do better than that. And I started to when C.S. Lewis defined that for me in that book, it was like, oh my gosh, like I've never been more frustrated with people than the ones that are prideful, and that's because they're in direct competition with me. I put them in direct
Mm.
competition with me, and so that's why pride equals enmity. And anyhow, I love like all of the Mountain Ops crew. Like you guys are you guys are all so humble, and there is no tension between Rodeo Time and Mountain Ops when we started coming together. Like you guys are so happy for my wins, and you want to help me, and um, how can we help each other? And I don't know, that's refreshing to be around. Um,
Mm. That's awesome.
but if you notice,
I'm glad.
like
I'm glad you've experienced that.
if you can think of somebody humble in your life, like they're probably the kind of person that anybody can get along with. That's like a
Yeah.
humble person, like
Yeah.
a prideful person. There's some people that humble people can get along with prideful people, but two real proud people like have a hard
Yeah.
time getting along with each other.
Yeah. So true.
Anyway, I don't know. I could talk about this for hours because I've literally been studying it for like 2.5 years now. Because just those few sentences by C.S. Lewis were like just a punch in the gut for me of how proudful I am and how
Mm.
much of a obstacle it's been in my walk with Christ and also everyday life.
Yeah. One thing I noticed when we were there, we did a workout. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 mornings we were with you, and you had your cold plunge and your sauna and such there. But you had inside the sauna, there was a Bible, and it would, the pages were all wilted and everything because I think it's been in the sauna for a while. Is that where it seemed to me like you have a routine that you follow that kind of keeps you grounded, keeps you working towards that relationship with Christ. And part of it is like diving in. Obviously, the physical, you're taking care of yourself. You're a very fit individual. But then that Bible, just to me, it stood out as, and I think I saw you in the reading, and then we joined you and interrupted that time you had with God. But is that kind of habit routine for you? And what does that mean to you?
Yeah, if I don't get in the sauna, I'll read, and I mean I'll just sit on the couch and read in the morning. But you know, I try to read something every morning, and uh, I talked about Proverbs yesterday because I'm kind of going through Proverbs and Psalm right now. But it is a pretty big habit for me. I've also tried to create a habit of just actually closing my eyes and being quiet and praying to and listening to God for like a time in the morning, and not just like
Mm,
consume a few chapters of a book and then go on with my day. Like really try to spend time listening. Um,
mm,
and so that's me trying to create that dependence that I need, because as much as I try to be independent, I'm not really. Life is so fragile. And
yeah.
I mean, you could trip walking right there. You could have a brain aneurysm. I mean, the way we drive, like we could literally be this far from a semi truck, like it's
Yeah.
just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Life is so fragile and we all act like we're in control, and so it's not necessarily that we're becoming dependent on God. We're just realizing our dependence on God. And so I
Mm,
try to start each day like that, and I'm no different than anyone else. I get distracted. I, my priorities get out of line, and when that happens, my days begin to slip. My anger is different. My pride swells up. Um, my priorities get out of line, and so it's a constant battle. But I have found that there are very few interruptions if I'm either working out in the sauna or reading my Bible, all the above, if I'm doing that prior to 7 a.m.
mm.
And people say they love sleep, but I don't think they love it more than me, because if you love sleep, why does it take you so long to get in bed? Because I'm in bed at 8:30, you know.
Are you?
Oh man,
You start,
it's hard to wake
wow.
up at 4:30 if you don't go to bed at 8:30.
Go to bed early enough. Yeah. No, that's good. No, you're so right. Life is very fragile, and I can't remember exactly when we came to visit you, but I think it happened after you said like we're this close to a semi, you could trip, you could do this. My father did. He had a tumble down their stairs and broke his neck and passed away a year and a half
Yeah.
ago. And so I know I know what that's like to have that call or that sudden like, wow, life has just changed and life is so fragile just based off of a step this way instead of this way, in the dark. And my mom heard a
I
thud and went and
I
found.
knew your dad had passed. I had no
Yeah.
idea it was like that. I would have definitely
Yeah.
picked a different analogy than that. So
No, it aligns so well, and it brings it close to home because that's what it did. I mean, it did shake me a bit, and I recognized how fragile everything is, and
yes,
how
sir.
finite our time is, and the God who gives can take away, and so it's important that we recognize that in life. And it's been interesting. I mean, I'm sure you, yourself, with your father passing, I don't know how many years it's been, but they can play a role in our lives even still, maybe in a more unique and different way. And I've seen that with my father and my relationship with him. And as I ponder upon things after I pray to God, and then I feel inspired by my heavenly Father, and at times I feel inspired by my earthly father, who's now in heaven with my heavenly Father. It's been an interesting journey and process to go through that. But I appreciate you mentioning that, because we do have to we need to take advantage of the moments and the time we have, and building relationships with God, building relationships with those that are closest to us on this earth. It's a tough thing to prioritize time, and with all that you have going on, all the content and all the product and everything you're selling, and you're going around and making appearances everywhere. It sometimes it's tough to just juggle it all and to keep the priorities straight. But I appreciate you mentioning that. So
Yeah,
how is
it was May of
okay
2013, so it was about 2 months
2013?
before our first video that he was picking up at a rodeo and
Okay.
had a heart attack. But
Ah,
yeah, he was 55.
wow. Yeah. 50. Wow. Super young.
Yeah. So,
Well, had there been a history of heart disease or anything in your family?
I mean, my granddad had open heart surgery, but there
Mm.
had been no history for my dad up till that point.
Mm. Wow.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm conflicted. I definitely prioritize my health, specifically heart health, but I'm also just real conflicted with media today and what they say is healthy as opposed to what actually is. And doing a lot of studying after we filmed the Netflix show, realized that
Yeah.
I got my dad having died of a heart attack, my mom got us this blood panel paid for us to get our blood checked. And it took me years to finally do it, but for some reason after the Netflix show, I did it, and it showed that my cholesterol was off the charts. And so I really started to
Mm.
dive into what was healthy and not healthy. And, well, according to mainstream media, if you got high cholesterol, you're in, you know, at risk of a heart attack. And, well, actually, that's like a theory. And maybe it's
Mm.
true, but they don't know for sure. It might be true.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying it's not, but 50% of the people that die from heart disease, only 50% of them have high cholesterol.
Mm.
So 50% of the people that die of heart disease don't have high cholesterol.
Mm.
And that was enough for me to scratch my head and say, wait a second, beef may not be the enemy. Red meat, cholesterol may not
Yeah.
be the enemy. And
Yeah.
so this is my third year now of being on what I call the Mountain Ops carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And so I got on the carnivore diet, and I'd been taking Mountain Ops products for years prior to our relationship. And
That's awesome.
uh, so I'm taking, the Ignite. I'm taking the creatine and protein, and I love the Venture bars and any Slumber. I freaking love the Slumber. But
Yeah. Me too.
so I was on carnivore diet for probably 6 weeks, and then I added fruit. So um, my energy started getting really low, and I just needed some carbs, and so I do that in the form of fruit. I'll have honey, cheese,
Yeah.
milk, a lot of honey, actually. I love honey. But regardless, that's kind of been my life over the last couple of years. And so um, I don't know. It's kind of realizing that red meat causes heart attacks is a theory really kind of
Mm-hmm.
made me question a lot of things. Um,
Yeah.
so anyhow, I don't know what I meant by that, but we're talking about
No,
Mountain
it's
Ops, so we're talking about nutrition, and well, my dad dying is why I went there, because I really started to dive into and ask what is real anymore these
right.
days.
Hmm.
And I don't think
In
that,
all
like,
aspects of life, or just in for your physical?
no, I'm talking about nutrition. I'm talking about
Okay.
nutrition. Yeah, I mean, no, my dad dying didn't make me necessarily rethink like my faith, for instance.
Yeah.
It was like maybe after the funeral, it had been 8 days. I looked up and kind of realized I had not questioned where I thought my dad was after death. Like days, like several days. It's not like oh man, I hope heaven is real and I hope my dad made it there.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't ask myself that. And so that was actually affirming of my faith.
Yeah,
No,
for
losing my
sure.
dad, the only thing I've really like questioned has been, well, number one, my decisions, without him here to confirm or deny that I'm making the right one, but also just nutrition overall and what's actually healthy.
Yeah,
I think my
that's
dad
good.
was a little bit too much into like processed sugar and carbs, to be honest. Like he
Yeah.
was a fit guy. I mean, he was riding a horse whenever he was picking up at a rodeo. Like he wasn't overweight, um, but he also didn't put in effort. Like he didn't exercise. He had milkshakes every night. He loved to make milkshakes. He didn't drink. My dad probably consumed maybe 5 margaritas in front of me my entire life. Um,
Mm.
but hit cheeseburger. He would wipe out the chips and salsa at a Mexican food restaurant. Like just a normal guy. He was a
Yeah.
normal cowboy. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it was those things that, and maybe stress. Like that's what I meant. That's why I brought up the Netflix show. I think maybe my readings are high because of stress from having to produce a show. Like
Mm.
anyhow, I'm not sure what causes heart attack, and neither are they. I'll say
Yeah.
that's my
No, it's
final statement on the deal. I just don't think that beef is as evil as everybody makes it out to be, and I think the whole world is
oh,
realizing that.
I agree. Yep, 100%. I agree. And it's interesting because the heart was where this all started. I think maybe I told you when I was down there, but my
Enduro,
my dad is
yeah,
yeah with the enduro and his heart health issues and my grandfather's heart attack and the other
yep,
grandfather's stroke. It was that's why this all came about. So
I
it's
love it.
interesting.
No, enduro is
So
I love enduro, and it's also the foundation product for Yeti and Ignite. They've all
yep,
got enduro in them, and then they also have other things like no, I the whole what is it, the nootropics?
yeah,
What's the
in
word?
the ignite.
Correct.
Yep,
Oh, that's just an Ignite. That's not
that's
necessarily
just
what's
in
in.
the ignite.
Okay.
No, yeah, the enduro is just the cardiovascular, and then yeah, you're right though. You explain it well. It's in the ignite. It's in the Yeti. We
Yeah.
just kind of spun it off and created a daily energy, cardio, brain ignite, and then the Yeti just daily cardio and the pre-workout ingredients with the creatine, glutamine, beta alanine, niacin, added to the enduro basically. So,
Yes, sir.
but
No,
no,
that's what
that's awesome.
that's what I'm a fan of. But yeah, your passion behind trying to help your family with a product that they could lean on is kind of what. Yeah, I've had a lot of respect for that. I'm constantly trying to study, and I really like try to do my own research just because I don't know how. I don't know. I don't really care to listen to the girls on The View about what kind of protein intake I need.
Well, I'm glad that that's not your source of.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
and there is so much information out there these days. It's like where do you turn? It's interesting. So I think we do have to take that into our own hands and really dive in and understand things for ourselves and understand how things work for our own bodies. And there's so much genetic makeup that we have to consider as well. But yeah, I think it's awesome your approach. But um, no, that's really cool. What's new and up and coming for rodeo time? What should we be looking out for Del Brisby and you don't compete in rodeo anymore, or do you?
I mean, yeah, I will. I have.
You will.
I had
Okay.
a rodeo. I had a shoulder surgery. It's been over a year, so don't. I mean, it's not like
Okay.
yesterday, but I haven't been to a rodeo since my shoulder surgery in November of 23. So it's been a
Okay.
while. I plan on getting back on this spring. It's summertime, um, but to be honest, over the last 6 years, I've had 6 surgeries, and it's just been kind of the way I viewed it. My first injury was my back, and I had to have back surgery, and then another back surgery, and then collarbone, and then shoulder, and then Anyway, it's just one thing after the other, and I have viewed it as God hitting pause on my rodeo career. And
Mm,
I'm trying to listen to what he has to say and make sure he's not
yeah.
hitting stop. I don't think he's hitting
Uh,
stop, but I am, every time that he hits pause, let's call it that, I it doesn't take away from what I'm doing with rodeo time. It doesn't take away from videos. Like I might have to take a 2 week break after a surgery where I'm kind of down and out. But as I'm recovering, bones are healing, surgery scars are healing. I'm still doing my job. I'm able to film. I'm able to do all these things. And so uh, I've felt that this is the priority that God has put in front of me. And that's to be a light in a dark world. And right now, the dark world is sometimes the internet. Well, if I can create
yeah.
some light there, then so that's my passion. That's my daily grind. Is
It's
we're
awesome.
either shooting videos or we're editing them, going to do the next thing. So right now, my priority is a vlog a week, 2 podcasts a week, and a couple of skits a week. And that's where if I'm doing that, then I'm at peace. Um,
That's awesome.
I go home in the evening and have a steak, and get up in the morning and do the very same thing again. Um,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
cold plunge, sauna, workout, back in the warehouse by 8 o'clock, ready to go again. So I've kind of got just the same old daily grind going as far as what's new for me. I've got
Yeah.
to do those fun collaborations I talked about with some YouTubers that are going to be
Yeah.
big for me, and um, but yeah, there's not like a big thing coming in August. It's just doing what I love the most, and I think that's what's given me longevity as a brand. Is the thing that moves me forward is the videos, which is what I love the most, and so
Yeah.
that's why I feel confident in my future. If God doesn't have different plans for me.
That's awesome. That's cool, Dale. I appreciate the time today. I've got one last question before we wrap up, and then we just appreciate you. I know you're going to be hunting with some of our team members this fall at Bear Mountain, and you did last fall as well. And one of these falls, I'm going to be there with you. Hopefully, maybe next year. We've got a little unique scenario this year with my daughter coming home that same week from Brazil, and we haven't seen her in a year and a half. So I just can't miss that. But I think who
You
are you
tell
going to
me
be
you'd
with?
rather hang out with your daughter for the first time in 18 months than hang out with Dale Brisby? Is that what you're trying to
Some
tell me?
reason that just seems like the thing I should do.
Yeah. No, I get it, 100%.
You're gonna have a fun crew though there with you, and I'm just sorry I'm gonna miss it, but I know Brad loves having you up there. You and Brad have a good friendship,
Yeah, he's good
and
people.
really really good people. If anyone listening has a chance to go and hunt with Brad up at Bear Mountain in Kremlin, Colorado. I did a rifle hunt up there this last year, and honestly, one of the days was one of my funnest days of hunting in my entire life. I felt like we were just chasing bulls all day long. It was incredible. But, um, anyways, one last question. It's a little bit more of a serious one too. I feel like I'm on with the cowboy comedian, and we've been talking pretty serious here. So I should have asked to have you tell your best joke or something. But we read a book here at Mountain Ops on a regular basis, and the title of it is "How Will You Measure Your Life?" And I typically end this podcast by asking the guests, like, when all is said and done as a conqueror in life, how do you feel like you'll measure your life?
I love running into people that knew my dad, um,
Mm,
old rodeo cowboys, and it's just hearing people that knew him, you know, don't get me wrong, like he's an old cowboy, so there's definitely some people along the way whose gears I'm sure he grinded, but it's for the most part, like he left a legacy, and the person he imprinted the most on, I think, was probably his family, myself, my brother, my sister, my mom, but and if I can come anywhere close to what my old man was, then I'll be happy. Like that, I mean, I strive to replicate what he was and what he did and what he had. And if that means $800 in my bank account when I leave, then so be it. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like his faith, man, the things he went through. My mom she kind of went on a walkabout for a couple of years, and the whole world told him to move on. The whole world, and he just kept saying, "What God brought together, let no man separate." And he would not accept. I don't know, when you're in Texas, both parties don't have to sign the divorce papers for the divorce to be final.
Mm.
But my dad, so it was final, but my dad just did not accept it. And he just had faith that what God brought together, no man can separate. And he just waited. And 2 years isn't that long. But you can't tell somebody that at the 1 year and 11-month mark. It's been a long, when it's been 23 months, like that's a long time. And he just waited and he waited. And it was his faith. Like he would just randomly fast for 3 days at a time. And he wanted his kids' legacy to be that their parents made it,
Wow.
And my mom had come from a broken family, and my dad had not, and he felt that I'm not throwing rocks at people that get divorces by any means. Like I get it. Everybody's situation is different, but this is mine. And my dad he just did not accept it, and he just had faith. And so they reconciled, and he lived for 7 more years after that. And it was the best their marriage had ever been. And it was heaven. Our whole family was heaven. And then he passed, and that was his legacy. And so, like, for me, the just faith, like the faith that he had when everybody there was one guy and his kids didn't tell him to move on. Everybody else, people in town, other parts of the family, everybody's like, you got to move on. Like, this is done. You got every right. People would bring him scripture where it talks about divorce is okay. And he just said, no, like what God brought together, let no man separate. And
Wow.
I don't know. That's a super personal thing. And my mom is grateful for it. My mom turned into a different woman, and she leads Bible studies, and I love my mom. And it was just a 2 years where God used my dad to show me what it's like to have real faith. And so anyhow, I hope I can have just a fraction of the faith and the loyalty that he had as a family man, as a businessman, as a friend, as a brother, all the things. And so that's a lengthy answer, but it's a complicated question. I've not been asked that. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your answer, and I appreciate the personal story around it and the willingness to share so vulnerably with the audience. And it's awesome. I mean, a legacy of faith. What an incredible blessing and gift your father gave to you while he was here, and that continues with you now, that strengthens you to help you conquer in life. And what a blessing that will be for your wife and your children as well. So
the other thing
Dale,
I would say is humility. Like that's, if I can't talk about, like that would be the second attribute. If I can have faith and humility,
awesome.
Those would be the two. So I
sounds
think I
like
got the
you're-
faith
you're-
thing down, but the humility deal is I'm reaching way out there.
I think the first step towards the humility thing is recognizing that we have pride, and it's like, okay, and then you're studying about it, you're practicing it, so you're you're on your way, brother. I appreciate the example. I think faith and humility are incredible, and that humility helps you exercise faith, and brings you close to the Creator and the one who's able to help you through it all. So,
Well, I
but
appreciate it, and I appreciate the relationship and all we're doing together. And I love the
likewise.
product. Keep sending the Ignite,
Well,
baby. And if you
we'll
stop
keep.
sending it, then I'll just buy it because y'all aren't charging enough.
We love partnerships that last as long as we can have them last. We're in this for the long haul, and we appreciate you, brother. We appreciate all that you've done to drive awareness to the brand in a segment for us that was new years ago when we started working with you, and it's growing and it's awesome. And one thing that I don't think many recognize, like your influence in driving awareness to Mountain Ops allows us to fulfill our mission, not just on the physical side with people and their transformations and such, but every bit of awareness that's driven to Mountain Ops allows us to do more in the community to help feed hungry families and children. And we just surpassed the 7 millionth meal mark. And I want to thank you for being a voice for us that helps propel that mission forward, that helps feed God's children. We're multiplying loaves and fishes here at Mountain Ops, and it only happens by coming together with partners that are helping us to drive awareness to what we're doing. That's what Mountain Ops is, at the heart and soul of it all. The lives that are changed are very vulnerable lives that need what we can offer, and so this system and this business creates this opportunity to build a resource that funds that. And so thank you for being a one who drives that awareness for us.
Yes,
So
sir. No, that's cool, and I love that. I love feeding hungry people. So I appreciate
it's
you
awesome,
guys
man.
using me.
Well, thank you. We'll be in touch, brother. I just thanks for your time and attention today. I know you're busy, man, so giving us a little bit of time and sharing your story with us is a blessing. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. We'll talk soon.